and I do social media marketing as well as most other forms of digital marketing like email newsletters, and I build websites for small businesses as well. And so today I'm going to be talking about using social media for small business. And if you have any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to just put them in the chat box and I'll answer them as we go. And then we'll also probably have time for some Q&A at the end as well. So getting started, I made a list of 4 keys to social success. So the 4 things that I feel are crucial for a small business to have in order to succeed on social media. And the first one is to have a plan or a social media strategy. The second one is to create great content for social media. The third one is to listen and engage. And the last one is to always evaluate and improve. So I'm going to go through these one by one. First of all, have a plan. So a plan is like your social media strategy. I call this your roadmap to success because your plan identifies where you're trying to go with your social media and how you're going to get there. So the first step of your plan for social media is identifying your goals. So the most common goals that businesses have on social media are increasing brand awareness, customer acquisition, so getting new customers, customer retention and loyalty, so building relationships with your customers, or offering better customer service, which is often done through social media. So identifying what goals you're trying to achieve on social media really helps you to focus your social media efforts on things that will help you achieve those goals. So secondly, we have audiences. Knowing your audience, it seems kind of obvious, but I have seen businesses on social media. For example, I've seen a photographer that posts content, for example, tips for taking better wedding photos or something like that. That kind of content is going to attract other photographers. And so it's really important to know who their audience is so that you can create content and attract the right audience that will help your business. So for example, I have a bunch of tweets from Taco Bell here, and just from their tweets you can tell exactly who they've identified as their audience, and that is just from their tweets you can see expectation on the weekend, go out and party, reality, watch television and eat Taco Bell, can I major in Taco Bell. Just from their tweets you can easily see that their audience, that they're trying to reach a younger demographic, students, probably college students and high school students. So knowing who your audience is really helps you to know who you're trying to speak to on social media. Another thing to decide is which content platforms you're going to be on. A lot of people ask me, should I be everywhere? And I think that it's best to just focus on the channels that you can do best on and the channels where your audience is hanging out. So in the example of Taco Bell, I know that they're on Snapchat, which is a platform that only people under 25 really use. I've never seen anyone older using that. So they recognize that who their audience is, and then they pick the platforms that will resonate with their audience the most. So other things you should have in your plan are the type of content you will post, how often you'll post, and where. So you might post more often on Twitter than you post on Facebook. The tools that you will use, so these can be tools that you'll use to schedule out your content or tools that you'll use to create your content. The tactics to help you reach your objectives. So these are the action steps that you'll take to help reach your goals. And lastly, how you'll evaluate and improve. And we'll go into some of these in further detail in the other sections. So number 2 is create great content on social media. So the reason why you need great content on social media is because on social media you can't buy the attention of your audience. In traditional marketing like television and billboards, you can purchase these and you can buy the attention of your audience, but on social media you have to earn their attention. You have to create content worth paying attention to so that they'll want to follow you. Now, yes, you can purchase advertising on social media, but people, it's going to be a lot harder for you to build an audience, and you're going to have to spend a lot more if your content isn't worth paying attention to. And I have just a quote from Jay Bear. He says, "Great content creates audience disproportionate to the other things in marketing that you're doing. If you're using traditional marketing and you're pushing out your sales messages and it's not super interesting to people, people are less likely to pay attention. Whereas if you have great content on social media, people will want to follow you and listen to you." So I've identified 3 things that that create that you can use to create great content on social media. So the first one is having value. So this is giving to your audience more often than you ask for something in return. And there are 2 books here that I've read that are really great for understanding how to give value to your audience. The first one is Utility by Jay Bear. And the second one is Jab, 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 Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuk. And the title of that book is actually a boxing metaphor. So when he says jab, 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 right hook, he's saying in boxing you need to jab a lot of times before you go in for that right hook. And it's like on social media, you need to give to your audience a lot of times before you can ask for something in return or promote your own business. So providing value is giving your audience a reason to follow you, asking what's in it for them, and not just promoting your own stuff, but trying to create content that your audience wants to listen to. And so generally when you're providing value, you're either educating or entertaining your audience. So I have 2 examples of one of each of these. The first one is Lowe's Fix and 6 campaign. So this was a campaign that they did on Vine, which is a social network that is actually owned by Twitter. And Vine is just, you can post a 6-second video, no longer than 6 seconds. And so Lowe's used this to create these Fix and 6 videos, and they're stop motion videos, and each video has a little tip that you can use for home improvement. So for example, I just have some stills of the videos. This one says, "Stripping wallpaper, make it easier with hot water and fabric softener." The other one is, "Use wood for edging when you're gardening." So all of their videos are educational, useful tips in 6 seconds, and their videos are really entertaining as well. The second example I have of a company that creates content on social media that entertains people is BlendTech. Now they have these videos on YouTube called Will It Blend, and they take different objects. They take like iPhones, or here it looks like they have glow sticks, and they just blend everything. And it's more so for entertainment purposes, but people just love watching them blend all these different stuff, and they comment on YouTube with suggestions for what they should try next time. So this is a series that they've created on social media that entertains people and makes people want to listen to the brand. So the second thing that you should incorporate in your content is relevance. And this is staying relevant to both your business and your target audience. So again, with that example of the photographer that's posting content on photography tips, you want the content to be relevant to your target audience and also to your business. So in this example here, I have a clothing store, and they posted a meme, "Are you sure you can handle another glass of wine?" Yes. So it's not really relevant to their business. I'm not sure why they would post something like this. And this other example is an insurance company in Regina, and they post mostly links on social media. And you can see the first one is tips to make barbecue season a little more guilt-free. So the article is 8 healthier burgers for your weekend barbecue. And the other one is a man in Turkey who knocked down a wall of his home and ended up finding an ancient underground city. So these articles are interesting and they're valuable to people, but they don't have anything to do with insurance. Even their cover photo is a turtle catching a frisbee. So it's not relevant to the business. So they're spending a lot of time on their social media, but they're probably not seeing any return for their business because it's not relevant. So I have this quote from Jay Bear, which comes to mind here. He says, "The goal is not to be good at social media. The goal is to be good at business because of social media." So with that insurance company, they're probably getting somewhat of a following because they're posting interesting things, but it's probably not helping their business at all, and they're probably just wasting their time posting this kind of thing. And I understand that it's hard for an insurance company to post things that are interesting and valuable and also relevant to their brand, but otherwise you're just wasting your time on social media if it's not relevant. So the third thing for your content on social media is consistency. And this is staying consistency in what you're posting, how often you're posting, and your branding. So these are a bunch of photos from Starbucks. And by branding, I don't just mean putting your logo on everything. If you look at these photos from Starbucks, they're all in kind of the same photo style. They've created consistency in what they're posting. They're not just completely all over the place. And this is where having a plan really comes into play, because when you've planned out what you're posting, how often, and how you're what kind of photos you're going to use and everything, you're going to have a lot more consistency throughout your social media. So consistency helps to build trust with your audience. It demonstrates credibility, and it lets your customers know what to expect from you. So ultimately, this is the foundation for building a good relationship with your customers. And Katie French from a company called Visage, she wrote an article on this, and I really liked this section from it, so I thought I'd share it. She says, audiences have access to a flood of content, so what piques their interest? Content that is cohesive, visually engaging, and consistent. Consumers are attracted to this content because it demonstrates credibility. It shows that your brand is invested in providing value through communication, that you are considerate of your audience's time and needs. If the content you create is segmented, siloed, or scattershot with no thought to design or presentation, it will be much harder to nurture that audience relationship. And then she also had a study in her article that shows the impact of branded content on social media. So you can see that companies with branded content were more likely to be seen as trusted, high quality, engaging, and personable. So branded content really helps you build trust with your audience and create a better relationship with them. So I have another example of David's Tea on social media. These are a bunch of photos they've shared, and you can see that the font they're using is always the same, kind of the same colorful images, the same photo styles. So you can see branded doesn't always mean just putting your logo on everything. It's the same style throughout everything. And these are their cover photos for David's Tea. They've got the same photo style. They use pictures of their products in kind of a setting that goes with the theme. So you can see the Mother's Day image with some flowers, their summer teas in a sandbox, and then their fall tea mugs on a ladder for apple picking. Now this is obviously a bigger brand. They have a much bigger budget. So I wanted to share a few examples of local businesses that are doing really well with this as well. And one of them is Norwood. I think that they've really created a consistent style throughout their images, and yet they're still really creative with them. So you can see almost all of these images are product images, except for the top middle one, and yet they're all completely different. A lot of clothing stores, they just kind of take a picture of the piece of clothing on the hanger or whatever, and it's not that interesting. But Norwood has really gone above and beyond with their photos to set them up in a really creative way and create a consistent style throughout their photos. So I think they've done a really good job of that. Queen V is another example. They create a consistent style throughout all of the images that they share with text overlaying. They use the same font throughout. Another place you can have consistency is in your tone on social media and the way that you talk. So this is a local restaurant, Tangerine, and you can tell just in the tone and the personality throughout the tweets. It's consistent, it's fun, there's a lot of puns, it's very playful. And so I think that they've done a good job too of creating consistency in their brand and making it interesting. They post it with a really nice photo. So they're another really great example as well. And when creating consistency, I find that it's usually easier. Oh, there's just a comment. Someone said, thought Tangerine was a bank. I think Tangerine is a bank, um, but it's also a local restaurant as well. It's on 15th Avenue, I think. Got really good homemade food. So scheduling tools, I find that it's really easy to create consistency when you create your content all at one time and schedule it out. So whether you do that on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, um, it helps you just know that your content is going out on a regular basis. Despite whether you get busy or something happens, you know your social media content is always going out consistently. So just a few scheduling tools here. Facebook has built-in scheduling, so you can schedule it right as you're posting it on Facebook. Hootsuite is a really big tool. It's got a lot of features. Buffer is a lot more simple. That's the one I use because I just need pretty simple scheduling. Hootsuite and Buffer are both paid tools. TweetDeck is for Twitter only. If you want to schedule tweets on Twitter, that's a free tool that you can use online, or you can download the app onto your desktop. So what content really comes down to is being consistent, providing value, and being relevant as well. Without value, it's hard to build an audience if you're not giving value to your audience. Without relevance, you could build an audience, but it's probably not going to help your business. And without consistency, it's really hard to build relationships with your audience because they don't know what to expect from you, and so it's hard to develop that trust. So number 3 is listen and engage. So this is a really important part of social media because traditional advertising, it was always one way. You're always pushing out your sales messages. But social media, for the first time, businesses are able to have a two-way conversation with their customers. So it's important to take advantage of that and listen to what your audience is saying. So TweetDeck is a tool that's really great for using to listen to people. So what you can use TweetDeck for is you can create these different columns that you see in the screenshot to monitor different types of tweets. So for example, you can create a column for a search, for maybe you want to search for your business name and have a column that's all mentions of your business name. And you can also, when you create lists on Twitter, you can also put them on TweetDeck as a column. So you can see in this example, this person has a list of their coworkers. So they've gone onto Twitter, they've created a list of all their coworkers, and then put that into TweetDeck so that they can see just all the tweets from their coworkers together. So what I recommend for small businesses is create a list of your competitors so that you can keep an eye on what they're up to. And create a list of your current customers if you know who they are, or people that are tweeting about your business or your product, so that you can engage with them and really help to nurture that relationship with them on social media. Another tool for listening on Twitter is Twitter's advanced search. This is a really powerful tool. Because you can search by location, you can search with different words, and at the bottom you can even search by sentiment, so whether the person is speaking positively or negatively, or if it's a question. So you can really search for advanced. Someone just asked a question, are your lists viewable by others? You can create public lists or private lists. So most of my lists I keep private so that nobody can see them, but if you want them to be public, you can make them public. There are advantages and disadvantages to both. If you make a list public, sometimes then people will get a notification that you've been added to their list, and so then sometimes they'll go and they'll view your profile and maybe they'll follow you because you've added them to a list. So for Twitter's advanced search, for example, just a way you could use this is, say you're like a local dentist or something, you could search like need a good dentist or something like that around your location, and then you can find people that are looking for your services in your area. So Starbucks is known as the most engaged brand on Twitter. They spend most of their time replying to customers and offering customer service on Twitter rather than just sending out their promotional messages. This is really good for them because they're building relationships with their customers rather than just always trying to sell to them. So it's important to try to interact with your customers and build those relationships. So lastly, we have evaluate and improve. On social media, everything is measurable. With traditional marketing, you don't have the option to see exactly how many people looked at your billboard. You might have a general idea, but it's really hard to track that. If people come into your store, you don't know if it's because they saw your billboard or your ad in the leader post or whatever. But on social media, you can track everything. Now, I understand that's a bit overwhelming, which is why I recommend that you figure out what your KPIs are. So KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator, and these are the metrics that match up with the goals that you're trying to reach. So here I have don't get caught up in vanity metrics. And what vanity metrics are is things that maybe make you feel good on social media, like your followers, how many likes you've got on a post, but don't actually translate into your real business results and help you achieve your goals for your business. So to measure that, you need to figure out what your key performance indicators are. So I have 4 questions you can use to identify what your KPIs are. The first is, what are your goals with social media? Because you can't measure how you're doing if you don't know what you're trying to do. Number 2 is, what metrics can you measure that will tell you if you're reaching those goals? Number 3 is, what are some reasonable objectives to strive for? Number 4 is, how are you going to make sure you reach those objectives? So I have an example that I filled out here to help understand a little bit. So 1, what are your goals with social media? So if your main goal is brand awareness, maybe you're a new business starting out and you really just want to spread the word, 2 examples of metrics that you can measure that will tell you if you're increasing your brand awareness are post reach and number of new fans per week. So how many people your post is reaching and how many new fans you're getting per week. So then you want to identify some reasonable objectives to strive for. So for an example here, I just reaching 40% of your audience, which is quite a large amount on Facebook. Facebook usually doesn't show your post to that much of your audience. And then gaining 30 new fans a week. So giving yourself an objective that you're going to strive for is really important so that you have kind of a benchmark to measure against. And then for number 4, I have how you're going to reach those objectives. Well, just an example here is you could hire a graphic designer to create shareable images on social media so that they're really professional and well done and people want to share them, and then use advertising to promote them to new people, which is how you would gain those new fans. And then you would check this at the end of every month and see how you're doing to reach your objectives, what you can do to change and improve. Because on social media, things change so fast, and it's important to use your analytics to tell you what's working and what's not working so that you can always be improving. So some evaluation tools you can use. Facebook Insights is built right into Facebook. Twitter Analytics is something new that they just added to Twitter. You can now download a spreadsheet. It's not built into Twitter like on Facebook, but you can download a spreadsheet from Twitter. In order to do this, you actually have to sign up as a Twitter advertiser right now, which is free to do. You don't actually have to purchase ads on Twitter. Just sign up as an advertiser, and then you'll get access to download your analytics. Pinterest Analytics is built in to Pinterest as well if you are a Pinterest business page. If you have a personal page on Pinterest, I think you can just switch it over to a business page so that you have access to those analytics. Instagram doesn't have analytics built in, but you can use a tool called Iconosquare. Google Analytics is really important. These are the analytics on your website, but you can use Google Analytics to see how you're doing on social media. For example, you can see which social media networks are driving the most traffic to your site. And you can set up much more complex measurements in Google Analytics as well. For example, if you have an online e-commerce store, you can see which social media network is driving the traffic that spends the most money at your site. For example, you might, if you're a clothing store, you might notice that people that come from Pinterest spend more money on your site, so then maybe you would know to focus on Pinterest a little bit more. Hootsuite is, as I mentioned already, it's a social media scheduling tool, but it's also an analytics tool. Same with Buffer. And those are, I think they start at about $10 a month. The other ones I've mentioned so far are free. Simply Measured is quite a complex tool. Most small businesses probably won't use it. It's about $500 a month. Sprout Social is a really good one for Facebook and Twitter. They create really nice visual graphs for Facebook and Twitter. So if, like with Twitter Analytics, you have to download a spreadsheet, and if you don't really like sorting through data, Sprout Social can be a good one for you because it creates like visual graphs and things like that to help you understand your data on Twitter a little better. And Sprout Social is $60 a month. So lastly, I just want to say social media is an ingredient, not an entree. Your social media should work together with your other marketing. You should still have a good website. An email list is really important. And social media should integrate with your traditional marketing. It's not, it shouldn't be your only marketing strategy. So thanks for listening. And if you have any questions, just put them in the chat and I'd be happy to answer them for the next little while. Most of the content in this webinar came from my blog, so if you want to read more about a certain topic, you can probably find it on my blog at prairiefoxweb.com/blog. Or I also have a newsletter that I send out, my blog content, but also some exclusive content, tips for small businesses on marketing online. So thanks for coming, and if you have any questions, just feel free to put them in the chat.
Great, thanks a lot, Leah. That was an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Again, we'll leave the webinar open for a few minutes here. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat box there. All right. Well, okay, great. Well, yeah, thanks a lot, Leah. Doesn't look like we have any more questions. Last call for questions. No. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thanks
thanks for
everyone for
having
your time
me.
here.